In the summer of 2018, Anto, Aboli and I cycled through Austria, Germany, Switzerland and France. This video is the first part of a trip that covers Austria and some parts of Germany. Even though Anto and I travelled to Prague before, our actual ride began in Salzburg, where we stayed for 2 days. It's an amazing city, and we fell in love with the place as soon as we got there. Salzburg is situated in a valley in the Alps, so the city is surrounded by snow-covered mountains. Perfect with a fairy tale castle. The Salzach River runs through the center, and the place is very, very green. This was the first time we were in a city that seemed to be designed for cyclists. In fact, the total length of the cycling tracks in Salzburg is about 180 kilometers. Both sides of the river had cycling and pedestrian paths, and numerous bridges crossed from one side to the other. A lot of them for pedestrians and cyclists only. This meant that the best way to get from one place to another was usually by a cycle. There were also special traffic lights for cyclists. The main square in the city where the Salzburg Cathedral is located, that area is a pedestrian and cyclist zone only, and it has all these performances happening there simultaneously. We even saw a man on a penny farthing, the first time I had seen one. Salzburg is the birthplace of Mozart, so there were a lot of inspired musicians playing piano in the central square. On our first day in the city, Anto and I had a work visit, so we spent our day doing that. In the evening, we just walked around the river. On the second day, Aboli went to Hallstatt, while we really explored the city on our bikes. We cycled up to Fortress Hohensalzburg, from where we got a view of both sides of the city, the old city on one side and the newer developments on the other. The older part of the city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is famous for its Baroque architecture. On the way down, we rode around the Salzburg Cathedral, then rode out to this lake called the Badesee Liffering, which is a small lake that a lot of locals go to for swimming. The day was a Sunday or a public holiday, so the lake was unexpectedly crowded. We didn't know Salzburg could have so many residents, but it was great to go for a swim, and the place had a beach-like vibe to it. The weather was wonderful with clear blue skies, and because it was summer, the sun set quite late, at about 9 pm. Golden sunlight of the evening lasted for about 2 hours. We crammed our day to exhaustion. Our hosts were also great. We were staying in this house that was shared by 8 friends, and that evening we cooked for them. We made potato sabzi and chapatis. Of the 2 nights that we spent in Salzburg, one night was a Lange Nacht, or the long night, where there were non-religious musical performances happening in various churches of the city all night long. Despite being exhausted from our day, we headed out to see some of them and fell asleep during one performance right in the middle of the main cathedral.
Salzburg was like a dream, and of all the cities we traveled through in Europe, it still remains my favorite.
The next day was the first day of our ride. We had to reach a tiny village called Babinsham in Germany, about 85 kilometers away. Of course, we got lost on the way and ended up riding more than 100 kilometers, but more on that later. As expected, we had starting trouble, and after a lot of troubleshooting with the bikes, we finally left Salzburg at around 8:30 am. We crossed the border into Germany quite soon into the ride and stopped at a small bakery for a superb breakfast of freshly baked croissant. Our route took us through Bavaria, an area which is famous for its green rolling hills. Anto was ecstatic because there were cherry trees all around, and we stopped quite a few times to pluck and eat the most delicious cherries. I was also quite surprised by how hot it was, around 35 degrees Celsius, and there was blinding sunlight. The road was a constant up and down, sometimes passing through wooded areas, but mostly through green meadows. By late afternoon, we reached Lake Chiemsee, which was a short detour. We tried swimming, but the water was quite disappointing. I think we'd gone to the wrong side of the lake. We left from the lake around 4 pm and hoped to reach Babinsham by 6:30. But Google Maps screwed up and we got lost at a point where the only option ahead seemed to be through a dense forest. We were frustrated. Aboli and I were close to tears. It had been a long day and we were stuck in the middle of nowhere, with sunset only an hour away. It was then that a really sweet farmer, Joseph, helped us find the right way. We were lost near his farm and he parked his tractor, came and told us where to find the main road. Not only that, he cleaned up and followed us in his car for the last 10 kilometers to make sure we reached our destination in time. Our detour and getting lost had added around 17 kilometers to our ride, and we finally reached Babinsham after pushing 102 kilometers on the first day. Our host for that night, Matthias, had the kind of house I've only imagined existed in books. A wooden cottage around 60 years old on the edge of a pond. He had cooked up a massive spread in the firewood oven with vegetables from his garden. We had dinner outside by the pond and after slept like logs. We were up early the next day, ready for a ride to Munich. Matthias showed us around his place and told us stories of his grandfather, who had built the house himself. Matthias is a tree surgeon and a sculptor, and the garden was filled with many small pieces made by him. After a scrumptious breakfast, we headed to Munich, only 65 kilometers away. We'd get there quite soon, we thought. The road again, though, was full of ups and downs. On the way, we visited a small town called Wasserburg. Sadly, we don't have videos of our ride to Munich. It was another scorching day, so we took a break to have 2 beers, cold and yummy in the hot afternoon. Anto and I were almost teetotalers, so the large beers got us quite woozy. Added to that, a sudden tear in the tire tube threw us. We had misplaced our spares, so had no choice but to push our bikes to the next village. Like the previous day, a total stranger came to our rescue. He saw our state, went home, and got us a brand new tube. We were touched and amazed by the kindness of the Germans, by how they completely went out of the way to help. We fixed our cycle and rode on. Another long day on the road, and we finally reached Munich at 8 at night.